Crescent, Oklahoma is a one-stop-light kind of town. It's a place many spend their whole lives.
I love this community because it feels like family.
I mean, I've had friends I've known since pre-K. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, it's just growing up with everybody.
It sits about 40 miles outside Oklahoma City, which is the 8th largest metropolitan area in the U.S. by land area and the 25th by population, growing from 31st since the last U.S. Census. By contrast, Crescent's population is no longer 1,500 residents, but rather sits around 1,300.
It's small. Don't have to worry about anything else.
The local American Legion is still open almost daily, welcoming back those who've served. The Crescent Co-op sits about a block off the main strip, waiting for harvest. To put it simply, it's the kind of town where they proudly fly the American flag outside their homes and keep their doors unlocked so the neighbors can stop by. Although all those things make up the body of Crescent, Oklahoma, like many small American towns, the school is the heart of the community. And in March 2020, it skipped a beat.
We left for spring break, and by April 6th, we had to have a distance learning plan in place.
It was just really strange because you'd grow up in a small town and you'd always seen everybody and got to talk to everyone every day, and then it was like, where'd everyone go?
We quickly realized this is not going to go away as quickly as we thought. So we started making some adjustments to finish out the year virtual.
For educators, that meant getting more than just creative, especially in rural towns like Crescent, where teachers often take on additional roles.
I am the art teacher, and we're a small rural school, so I pretty much cover all the grades in art.
I'm the 5th and 6th grade science teacher. I'm also the high school and middle school boys basketball coach.
Teachers had to be innovative and learn new ways to approach instructing their students, even if just to keep their attention.
Focusing was very hard because, watching TikTok, watching TV, it's all that's just at the house, so you don't want to do your work.
My math teacher didn't exactly know how to use all the Google Classroom and Zoom stuff, so it took him a minute to learn what to do.
What I chose to do was to use social media as a platform for my classes, so I put together packets and had them available for parents to pick up with supplies and media.
So I have to step up my game and understand that they're bored out of their mind if I don't let them use the technology that they've been accustomed to. So I've got to get better at using technology myself so that I can be a better instructor for those kids.
Getting teachers up to speed was only part of the struggle. Many kids did not even have the internet access they needed to attend virtual classes.
I had students who would go to the church parking lot and sit in their car or go to, whatever parking lot where there was Wi-Fi.
Hotspots were kind of like prized possessions. If you could find one, it was amazing. Districts were receiving money from the state to help kind of close that gap a little bit, except that we couldn't find anything. And because of the pandemic, places were closing down, so we weren't able to get shipments and orders of stuff.
You'd think today, in today's time, more kids would have better access, but really the only type of access they would have would be their cell phones.
So, like their teachers, administrators got creative to find ways to expand internet access across more school districts.
Our district, we also set up buses that had a hotspot on them in different parking lots around the district. And so then families could bring their students to the parking lot. You would stay in your car, but your student was able to access and get onto the hotspot there.
And there was a surprising problem the pandemic uncovered: a critical need to provide training for parents on the technology their kids use in school.
I can imagine being just a normal person, not an educator, at home that was trying to navigate through this that we were asking them to do, and we didn't prepare them at all. We just said, well, your kids should know how to do it.
It was difficult. I mean, I'm a trained teacher for 22 years, and it was hard for me, so I can't imagine being just a parent that's not tech savvy, that dove into that and not knowing how to get their kids access.
Marcy Smithson is the president of the Crescent Schools PTO, and she agrees. Knowing how to use the technology is critical and can help even the youngest of students.
I feel that for Caroline, being in kindergarten, learning to work on a tablet, she's able to use those skills at home, and then now she uses them in the classroom, and it's been able to advance her in mathematics, in reading, and just, I feel like ahead already knowing how to use those tools.
And it's perhaps even more important for older students who are about to graduate or will either move into workplaces that often require computers or attend college.
So I think that was my biggest learning curve that I've noticed for me, was going from not having to use technology very much to having to check your email 4 and 5 times a day, to having to be on an online basis almost all day long during your class schedules. So I think it probably benefited students in high school now going into college, just having to be familiar with technology, but it was definitely a learning curve for the people that hadn't done it before.
Like other parents, Christy Field struggled during 2020 to help her high school student use that technology and stay on track while attending a virtual classroom.
His motivation to do his work and to be doing it online just decreased.
As hard as it may be to imagine, the year was even more difficult for Fields and her son Dalton than for other families.
My husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
For Dalton, that challenge amplified the impact of not having better access to his classrooms and ultimately his classmates.
He really needed to be around his peers because of the illness that his daddy had. He needed that support from his friends, and he was unable to get that during that time. So it was very challenging.
It felt very disconnected, felt very just distanced from everybody, and it was very weird going through it. It was a lot of just like, oh wait, something's happening, or this happened here, or this person did this, and it's like, what?
Being disconnected from school and friends was something other students also struggled with during the pandemic.
I was hanging out with them, and then as soon as it closed, I stayed away from everyone.
Yeah, so right before my freshman track season was whenever it hit, and so that was really a big bummer because we had been preparing for track and we were so excited, and then it just hit and there was no track season, and then it just carried on, and then basketball season got pushed back, and then cheer got pushed back.
It was terrible. Didn't get to do any sports, ruined some baseball year.
It's been definitely a roller coaster sometimes.
Dalton is quick to point out, both he and his mom managed to find their own silver linings, despite all the struggles he and other students had during the pandemic.
It helped me connect with my dad in his last year. With being stuck at home, I got to be with him more than I normally would have been. I would have been at school most of the time.
Well, I was lucky. My son goes to Crescent, our school, and we were fortunate enough to have teachers email, call, and check on him during that time. So we were very fortunate on that. So I wish every community could be like ours.
Despite the need for improved internet connectivity and expanded technology, everyone we talk to in Crescent count themselves among the lucky. That's because other districts did not fare as well.
Sometimes there's a misconception that all schools function the same way, or all schools have access to the same level of technology. And in some places, that's not the case.
Just ask Principal Lauren Kelly or Coach Joe Knapp. Principal Kelly worked at schools across Oklahoma before coming to Crescent Elementary, and the coach switched school districts from Hobart to Crescent at the height of the pandemic.
We did a survey, and only about 20% of the kids in that community had internet access. So when you have 80% of your student body not able to do anything online, it's extremely difficult to continue that teaching with your online resources that we try to utilize as teachers.
And come to any school and you're going to see the divide. We've got students that have access and are extremely motivated and staying caught up. And then we have students that have had a year and a half of disconnect from education. And so they're coming back into the school buildings even today, not on the same level as their peers. So we're already seeing the ramifications of this are happening now. And as it continues, as students don't have access and don't have the supports that they need, I foresee we're gonna see these problems for quite a while.